Our next inductee is the Portuguese princess Ariel. And here to induct Ariel into the class of 2018 is a fellow Hall of Famer himself, one of my best friends in the business, the East Coast Intensity, Cecere.
Good evening. Again, Joe, thanks, man. It's a big deal for everybody, man, honestly. You should be getting one of these for yourself, honestly. You got people coming in? What can I say about this young lady? It's surprising that we just had this conversation a couple of weeks ago that I've actually known her almost half her life. It's crazy to think that I'm already getting the Iggy. I know I was always told, don't get the mic. I know. Ariel started when she was about 15, 16 years old and accomplished a lot in her time. To be able to be who she was and what she did, she always did it with a smile. But she was always told that, you know, she's not big enough, she's not strong enough. She didn't think of it that way. This girl had an opportunity to wrestle not only in New England, across the country. She had an opportunity to go to Japan, Mexico, Canada. And it's amazing to see how this woman has progressed. But it always stuck that she always had that feeling that she wasn't good enough. And she always wanted to prove somebody wrong. And she always wanted to make sure that she got that point across, and she trained hard and she worked hard and she kind of got that point. But she always did it with this defiant type of attitude about it. And it was very important. Mies? Jimmy Mies. All right, so cue in the defiant, I guess.
What's up there, sweetheart? How you doing, guys?
Okay.
I'm gonna tell the story. You know,
Do the story.
Honey, first of all, I love you. Do not beat the shit out of me outside after this is over, okay? We love you. But no, a lot of people did give her that, where they said, you know, she was always gonna be the smaller girl. She was always gonna be the one that got beaten on. And I remember the first time I really got to sit down and watch her, she proved me wrong and everybody within a 10-mile radius who could hear the guys screaming. We had a tournament for DPW, this was probably back in about 2007, and we were short one guy for the tournament. We're like, who can we put in there, who can we put in there? And of course, Miss Cherry over here, oh, you know, I'll do it, I'll work with the guys, and all right, we put her in there. The guys were pissed. So, her first match, we put her in there with good old Abel Graves, who couldn't work himself out of a paper bag. Yeah, literally, he couldn't hit water if he fell off a goddamn boat. Like, so we throw her in there with him and going slow, and you could tell she was getting irritated because everything they called was just ass backwards, and he was screwing it up. So he decides he wants cheap heat, throws her in the corner, and decides to grab a boob. Did you ever see The Incredible Hulk when his clothes start to split up the back and he gets pissed and just throws everything that he gets his hands on? This was her. She beat the piss out of this poor boy. He couldn't breathe for the last 10 minutes. I think she dragged the match out on purpose just so she could beat on him some more. She hit him so much you could hear him screaming down the hall. And this is no kidding. We had people from a bar 3 buildings over coming over and looking in because they wanted to know who was screaming because she's beating the hell out of this guy. Mike Milano, God rest his soul, decides, oh, I want to referee this match because it's funny now. Slides in the ring as Abel's laying on his back, and you can hear it on video clear as day, is, you pissed that bitch off. And all you hear is gasping for air, oh my God, I know, while she's kicking him in the side of the head. It was absolutely fantastic. But, hon, I just want to say how proud of you I am. You've accomplished more than anybody ever said that you could do, and the last thing I'm going to leave you with is you're only a couple short of a soccer team now, so you guys can keep going, so let's finish it off. But I'm proud of you, and I love you, hon.
Ariel came up in a time where women's wrestling might have been slightly different. A little bit, you know, the TNA aspect of it, things and whatnot, but she was out there to break the mold, and I personally feel, and I think there's some others that feel that, I think with the whole women's revolution that goes on now, I think she was one of the ones that pioneered it in the beginning. That's a fact for me.
Yep, absolutely.
They say there is a phrase going around of the 4 horsewomen. I can't think of anybody better than Ariel, Mercedes Martinez, Nikki Roxx, There's one other that unfortunately escapes my memory here. And I had it in my head about 50 times. Cindy Rogers. I'm sorry, Cindy Rogers. Those girls were trailblazers at the time where they said, forget about the whole bras and panties matches, we're gonna kick your face in. Whether they wrestled against each other, they tagged, whatever the case may be, they gave you well more than your money's worth up and down the East Coast and anywhere else in between. But the thing that stuck out to her the most was family. I remember sitting with her one day and she's like, oh, I can't wait to get married. I'm like, you're 20, stop. She's like, but I want a big family, 9, 10, 12 kids. I'm like, are you retarded? What's wrong with you?
She did it in 2 years.
Fast forward to present day, she's halfway there. As beautiful as the kids are, and this past May, gave birth to the newest of the clan, a little Benjamin.
Yeah, you gotta go
Brain
with all,
fart.
you're like,
Little Benjamin, and I was blessed to be asked to be godparents with my wife for him, and but family was the biggest thing, and the reason why this gentleman's here because this is the gentleman that she swooped off his feet. It wasn't the other way around. She literally swooped him off his feet. I think it was an arm drag, a back fist, and took him from there. But Mr. BMT Tomas had something he wanted to get in and maybe get across.
A little too high. So I'm essentially her retirement plan. The one thing I noticed, I met, it's funny because the story that Mies told, that was the night I was going to ask her for her phone number. I changed my mind. She is the personification of woman in every way. A mother of 6 children under 6 years old, a preschool teacher, or as we like to define it in English language, a masochist. I remember in 2007 when I met her for the first time, I was 150 pounds. I was wearing neon pink spandex and I had an afro. Surprised I wasn't racially profiled where we were. But it's literally 11 years later, 6 children. It's the greatest thing I ever did. I remember driving up and down the East Coast with her, watching her wrestle, watching her beat up poor souls, and it's quite the pleasure to be sitting here. It was rough. We almost weren't here. It's really hard to find a babysitter for 6 kids. But I'll just keep it sweet because the babysitter does charge by the hour, and I got to put 6 kids through college. So I'm very proud of her. I love her to death, and this is something that she's long overdue deserved. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce, if you don't mind, the female inductee.
Before you do that, one last thing real quick, sorry. A few years ago, she lost somebody very special to her. She's looking down at you right now, Ronnie. She's looking at you and she's proud of you, immensely proud of you. I always remember that.
Ladies and gentlemen, the women's inductee into the 2018 New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, the Portuguese Princess, Ariel.
Making me mess up my makeup. I worked hard on this. Thank you for having me, and apparently I don't realize how close this is. So I've never been good at talking to the mic. It's always been one of those things. It's kind of how this relationship first happened in wrestling, because I would just make him do all my talking. But I'm going to keep it very simple. Thank you very much. For people like Baker, who trained me and believed in me when I was a 15-year-old. I came to a wrestling school because my brother wanted to train, and one of the promoters looked at me and said, do you want to wrestle? And I said, yeah, I do. And he's like, okay, come back when you're 16. I go, good, I'll turn 16 next week, I'll be back. And I did, and Baker saw something in me, so he took me under his wing, and along with him, Jose Perez, who had a good hand in that as well, because he was always there helping me out. I did my best to make women's wrestling proud over here in New England, and I got to travel and make some of my best friends, like Nikki Roxx, who's not here, who will be inducted soon, I'm sure. She deserves to be here. She was supposed to come, but babies happen, as we know. But so some of my best friends I met in wrestling. I met my husband in wrestling. Very close friends nowadays. I'm just thankful I was able to do it. I'm very glad my 6 children are very excited that they got to see mommy as a wrestler, because they see videos and they don't even believe it that that's the same person. But I make my little kids proud, and I'm thankful for everybody. Thank you very much for believing in women's wrestling, and this whole women's revolution is cool on TV and all, but while half of them are still half naked on TV, me and Nikki Roxx and all the girls like Mercedes used to drop me on my head every 3 seconds at ACW or DPW, at the end of the day, we were doing it before they were on TV. So women's revolution is how you believe in yourself, and I tried my best to not fit in the mold and just do what I can. So little girls who are here, watching at home, you can do it, even if you're a little tiny Portuguese girl who came from another country, who had no clue what wrestling was, but thought it was going to be a cool thing to do. So thank you very much. I'm very proud of this. So thank you.